What's going on, everyone? My name's Eric, and we're back with the recreation of DIMEBAG'S rig right behind me. So I've had this thing for a little while now, and it's really dawned on me that this amp can do more than what a lot of people give it credit for. This rig can do more than what people give it credit for. It seems like when people online, they see a piece of gear or they see an amp or a rig associated with a certain player, they assume that they can only do that one thing. So a lot of people, when they see a Randall solid state and they see some rack gear, or they're just a Randall solid state in general, it's immediately, it only sounds like Dimebag, that's it. Some people see Marshalls, it's like it's only Slayer, it's only Zakk Wylde, so on and so forth, you get the deal. But since I like to tinker with things, I plugged this into my load box as I normally do, because I don't really have the luxury of cranking up my cabinets as much as I would like to test this theory. But so I threw it into my load box, and I then threw a bunch of different IRs on it, and you're going to be surprised in how actually modern this sounds. Now, I know I made that claim in another video walking through the entire rig, saying like how modern it sounds and like how Daryl's approach to tone chasing was very modern, you know, especially with boosting the front end and everything. And yeah, so what we're going to do here is kind of dispel that myth that this can sound beyond Dimebag, and this should not be pigeonholed to just a Dimebag tone. So without further ado, let's get right into this. Alright, so for the purpose of the demo, we're going to see and hear a few different guitars here. One of them is going to be this Charvel 475 in Desert Crackle. It has passive pickups. It also has an active preamp on the guitar as well. You're going to see one of my LSL Baritones in there as well, just so you can hear what a baritone guitar sounds like. The Charvel's tuned to E flat, the Baritone's tuned to around drop B, and then I'm going to throw one of my 8 strings into it as well, just so you can see and hear how this amp reacts to different guitars through different styles. And what you're going to hear for the speaker is the cabinet section from Neural DSP's John Petrucci archetype, and that's kind of the main one that I'm using now with all my amps that I go into my load box with, and that's just the general plugin I use when I go to track guitars if I don't want to use one of my tube amps. Alright, so the settings are going to be the exact same from the initial walkthrough video of this amp. So we got the gain on 10, masters around 9 o'clock, treble middle bass, there you go, the presence is there, and we're going to be using the Furman PQ4, which is essentially just a glorified EQ and overdrive, but in rack mount configuration with a few other bells and whistles here. So what I'm going to do after you hear the rig with the Furman and the Randall on, I'm going to kick the Furman off, because obviously these Furmans are hard to find, and the Randall is kind of hard to find on its own as well. I'm going to throw this pedal on here. This is a no knob, no nonsense pedal from Eris Effects. It's called the Tightener. It's an overdrive and a gate in one. So it's essentially going to recreate in a way of what the EQ is doing here, because this is more or less a take on an TC integrated pre in some way, shape, or form, or at least that's what the EQ is like to me. The low end is really shelved off and the mids are pushed. Just kind of like what we have here. The low end is kind of shelved off and the mids and the highs are more or less accentuated, even though everyone associates Dimebag's tone with having a lot of scooped mids. And believe it or not, a lot of that has to do with the speaker. So, here we go. Alright, so that pretty well does it for today's video, and what do you think? Let me know in the comments below if you were as blown away to hear that Dimebag's rig doesn't sound like Dimebag when you just change one component, which is known as the speaker, or the IR in this case. I was totally blown away with it when I first plugged this in and used it like with the IK multimedia rig as the cabinet and everything, using the Randall Jaguar speakers. Sounded fantastic, really hit the Dimebag tone, and it sounded almost dead on, which is so scary, you know, that I was able to achieve that in like a studio, like a small studio setting. And then after thinking about it, I thought, I wonder what this would sound like using like a vintage 30 or like a Neural DSP cab sim and everything like that. And I could not believe how honestly modern this rig sounds. And I mean, honestly, I put it back to back with some of my tube amps, and it honestly keeps up. Maybe if you are in the market for buying a rig and you want to recreate Dimebag sound, but you want it to do a few more things than just sound like Dimebag, like you can do it and you can have it sound like that with this rig. You know, you just got to do a couple different things. If home recording isn't your thing, maybe you just need 2 different sets of cabs. Maybe if you want to have the Dimebag sound, get an old Randall cab with the Jaguar speakers in it, or get a crank cab with the Eminence Legends in it, or if you want to have something a bit more modern, you know, get a cab with V30s in it. And like, you know, V30 cabs are pretty plentiful these days, and there's a lot of different options you can get for them as well. So the world's your oyster at that point. It all depends on what road you really want to take with it and where you want to really go with your whole endeavors of chasing tone and building your own rig. And if you liked this video, consider giving it a thumbs up, and let me know in the comments below if you've learned anything new, or if there is another rig that you think only does one trick, or you know, it's a one-trick pony, you know, that's associated with a certain player and a tone. And if you like all the other regularly scheduled content that's on my channel, whether that's different covers, whether that's guitar repairs and setup tutorials, I do all that stuff. Consider subscribing. It really lets me know that you like the things that I do, and it lets me know that I'm doing a good job, which is always nice to know at the end of the day. So thanks for checking this out, and I will see you next time.